Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Everyone take a seat. We're going to get started. You're very quiet. I have in my notes here, in case people are really loud, that I should say that a second time, even louder, to get everybody's attention. But I think we're all good today. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci de vous joindre à nous pour cette première journée de la 4e conférence Govmaker. Welcome to Govmaker. This is our 4th annual conference here in Fredericton. My name is Karina LeBlanc, and I'm the Executive Director of the New Brunswick Social Policy Research Network, the host organization for Govmaker, as well as being the Executive Director of the Pondeshpande Center. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Wolastoqey, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. In the short space of 36 months, Govmaker has become the premier open government conference in Eastern Canada, thanks to your active participation and support. Together, we are the Govmakers. This year's edition is entitled Leadership, Innovation, and People Power, a Framework for Digital Transformation. And our gathering in this room is a testament to the people power. Nous avons tous un rôle à jouer dans le gouvernement ouvert et la transformation numérique, peu importe que nous travaillons au sein du gouvernement ou dans le secteur des affaires, dans les universités ou collèges, au sein d'organismes sans but lucratif ou en tant que simple citoyen qui aide le gouvernement à concevoir en collaboration des services répondant à nos besoins. Govmakers know that transforming how we govern is not something that can be done by a few. Transformation is a team sport, and everyone is invited to play, and no one will be left behind. I'm proud to say that Canada's experts in open government and digital transformation have accepted our invitation to give presentations, panels, workshops, to offer practical training and lessons learned to help us all in every sector with what's happening now and what's next in open government. For example, we'll hear from Alex Ryan, who co-founded the Alberta CoLab, Colleen McCormick on entrepreneurship, and Canadian Open Data Leader of the Year 2016, Dr. Tracy Loriot, on data and technological citizenship. We'll hear and talk about using social movements thinking to affect large-scale change, tabletop policy prototyping, building the open government movement, using technology to build a better society, accelerating open data with a do-it-yourself kit, and the latest from New Lab, just to mention a few. It is an embarrassment of riches. I am sure we will all have a difficult time choosing which concurrent sessions to go to. This year, again, we look forward to an exciting open data visualization challenge, with the top teams giving us and the judges their pitches in the final session tomorrow morning. I urge you during the breaks to take a look at the posters from this competition and to vote for the People's Choice Award by 11:15 a.m. tomorrow. You can go to odvc.squarespace.com. So, nous avons vraiment une belle opportunité dans ces prochaines 2 journées de créer une collaboration entre les secteurs comme citoyens et citoyennes, non seulement du Nouveau-Brunswick, mais de ceux qui viennent visiter de l'extérieur aussi. We have a really amazing opportunity to create a collaboration. Open government started about accountability, about transparency, about efficiency. But now it's evolved to create something about participation and collaboration and bringing the citizen closer to the work of government. It's an exciting time, and we have a blank sheet that we can work in over the next 2 days to figure out how can we maybe take some risks? How can we lead with innovation in mind? So I would like to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors who made the gathering of Govmaker possible. Our diamond sponsor, the Government of New Brunswick. Our silver sponsors, BioNB and the Pandesh Pandey Center, especially for the in-kind gift. The members of the teams who are on the Govmaker Organizing Committee. Specifically, I'd like to mention Shani Beaulieu, who put her heart and soul into this conference. It'll be the last one she organizes, so we want to recognize her for all the work that she's done. In partnership with Lorna Brown and Nick Scott and the rest of the team, we thank you very much for bringing this to us over the next 2 days. So let's give them a round of applause. So now it's my pleasure to introduce and then hand off to our MCs, the co-chairs for the 2 days ahead. We are honored to have them with us again. This year from government, Cheryl Hansen, the Chief Information Officer of the Government of New Brunswick, who is a transformative civil servant. Et de la ville d'Edmundston, Monsieur le Maire, Cyril Simard, who was such a great panelist at Govmaker 3 that we asked him to come back to be a co-chair. Let me tell you a little bit about them and then invite them to the stage. Cyril Simard a débuté sa carrière à l'Université de Moncton, campus d'Edmundston, en tant que directeur de l'éducation permanente. Il a par la suite poursuivi sa carrière au sein de l'Organisation internationale de la francophonie en France. De retour à Edmundston, il s'est investi dans le milieu des affaires en fondant, entre autres, une firme d'expertise conseil en gestion du savoir et en technologie de l'information. Cyril a toujours été fortement impliqué dans sa communauté. Il a été tour à tour président de la Société historique du Madawaska, du Salon du livre d'Edmundston, du Concert scolaire des frontières et d'entreprises Madawaska, entre autres. Il en est à son 2e mandat à la mairie d'Edmundston. Cheryl has more than 30 years' experience in the public sector, from frontline clinical to management and leadership portfolios, in roles that range from policymaker to CIO. Cheryl's most recent responsibilities have included provincial direction and leadership for the e-health portfolio, Vice President of Enterprise Services for Service New Brunswick, and her current role as CIO of the province. As CIO, she has recently led the creation of the widely consultative draft digital transformation strategy for the Government of New Brunswick. These two people are definitely Govmakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cheryl Hansen and Cyril Simard.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Karina, and welcome to everyone. Thanks to the New Brunswick Social Policy Research Network for organizing this 4th annual Govmaker. I'm really excited to be here. Last year was fantastic. There was tremendous energy in the room, and I'm sure in another hour we'll be there again. And special thanks to all of our speakers, especially those from away that are dealing with a new time zone. Welcome to New Brunswick. We're really excited to have you here.
Alors, essentiellement, comme coprésident et coprésidente, Cheryl et moi aurons l'occasion de vous présenter évidemment les séances, les groupes de spécialistes et les présentateurs. Et chaque année, comme vous le savez, Govmaker relève son jeu d'un cran. Donc aujourd'hui et demain, nous aurons le plaisir de présenter des conférenciers qui sont absolument extraordinaires.
We in the program chairs, Nick Scott and Lorna Brown, and committee member Bill McKenzie will be here to introduce and thank the speakers and to keep the sessions transitioning smoothly. We also are here with the most important information about lunch breaks, washrooms, all of those key things. We have some very special people with us today to bring greetings to the conference, but first, I would just like to remind everyone that you can listen to everything in your language of choice The devices are in the back over this way. I think most of the sessions will be in English, but we certainly offer simultaneous translation for all sessions in this room and in the Marysville room.
Merci. Alors, comme l'expliquait Cheryl, le Govmaker est une conférence bilingue, comme vous le savez. Le service d'interprétation est offert à tout moment dans la séance ici même, à l'exception évidemment des ateliers, ainsi que dans la salle Marysville. Alors, vous avez accès aux écouteurs qui sont derrière la salle à tout moment. Et sur une note personnelle, I'd like to just invite everybody, because I know a lot of people here are bilingual, but most of them, and especially my Anglophone partner in New Brunswick, are reluctant sometimes just to jump in. So I would appreciate if everybody would take a moment this next few days to jump in sometimes just to practice a little bit more. Maintenant, à nos invités spéciaux. J'aimerais d'abord vous présenter Mme Imelda Purley, qui est année résidente Mi'kmaq Wolastoqey Center à la Faculté d'éducation de l'Université du Nouveau-Brunswick. Imelda Purley est une femme Wolastoqey des Premières Nations de Tobique et de St. Mary's, ainsi que de Hulton Band of Maliseets aux États-Unis. Imelda est l'aînée résidente de l'Université du Nouveau-Brunswick, dont elle a reçu un baccalauréat SR ainsi qu'une maîtrise en éducation. Elle parle parfaitement le Maliseet, sa langue maternelle. Imelda's traditional roles within the community include sweat lodge keeper, medicine wheel teacher, sacred pipe carrier, and keeper of the women's ceremonies. We're honored to have her join us this morning for the second year in a row to provide the opening ceremony, so please welcome Imelda Purley.
Kolasi kopa bedabazoltia good gitak migomen walastuk. Kumajid malida hadman and nilan wasquailtiak. Natsagito nia walastuk, Wilma Kazijito nia messi, the Julinago Gawigoltiak. I welcome you to our traditional territory, and I thank the organizers for recognizing the unceded traditional territory of our people. I'm also asking you to go, those of you who are visiting, to go visit Wolastoq, what's been renamed St. John River. We have a tradition that no matter where we go in our travels, we always go to the water source, because the water source is what carries our families, our DNA. So I ask you to come and introduce yourself to our ancestor Wolastoq, and ask her to show you the best time ever in our beautiful province here. What we do traditionally is, especially in this season, you know, the autumn, our seasons are female, and the autumn woman is getting ready to leave us to welcome the grandmother of winter. And so in this season, we honor the four-leggeds, and so that's what the drum symbolizes, is because it's made from the skin of an animal. And so I honor that the four-leggeds still provide traditional gifts to us. The song that I'm going to sing is a welcome for the day. Each day, you know, we do a ceremony to welcome the day and give gratitude. So we start our day in gratitude, not in complaints, and that's a good lesson to learn. I was at a conference at St. Thomas on meditation, and I was listening to all the different ways of meditating, and I'm going, it's not a practice for us, it's a way of life, where we start each day in meditation and give gratitude for the day. So I'm blessed to be here with each and every one of you. The song I'm going to sing, as I said, is a greeting, a welcome for the day, a gratitude for the day. And so I'll do four chants, because the four symbolize the four seasons, the four cardinal directions, the four phases of our lives, and also to honor the four phases of development, which is our spiritual, our social, our physical, and our thinking. And so I honor the ones who went before us. And I also honor the ones not yet born. And I honor your families for allowing you to come to our beautiful province. And I honor each and every one of your spirits that are here today. Your honors, thank you for being here. Always, always good medicine to see you. May the heartbeat of this drum resonate in each and every one of our hearts to be one during your conference and beyond. And may we be one mind, one family. Uliwan. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Elder Purley. We are honored by your presence and your greeting as we start these important 2 days together. For the third year running, we have the privilege of welcoming Her Honor, the Lieutenant Governor of New Brunswick. Jocelyn Roy-Viano became New Brunswick's 31st Lieutenant Governor after a long and successful career focused on economic development, the promotion and advancement of education, and community engagement. Throughout her career, she has sought to promote and advance research and innovation. Her Honor is a special friend of Govmaker. Every year, she challenges and encourages us to actively participate and to create the New Brunswick we want for the future. With a citizen-centered transformation of government on the horizon, we are taking up that challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Honor, Madame Jocelyn Roy-Viano.
Thank you, merci. Distinguished guests, distingués invités, guest speakers, délégués, organizers, sponsors, friends of open dialogue and open government, chers amis, bonjour. Je suis vraiment honorée d'avoir été demandée de revenir pour cette 4e conférence sur la politique sociale et le gouvernement ouvert. It is obvious this morning that the last few years got people talking and thinking and doing, and still the work has just begun. Around the globe and here at home, we know there is demand for an open and networked environment which engages people for the public good, a whole government approach to enhance service delivery, and provide good value for money, a modern workplace that uses smart technologies, and a capable, confident public service to embrace new ways of working and to celebrate diversity. Ne vous méprenez pas. Le virage numérique n'a pas seulement les citoyens comme cadre de la démarche. En fait, les citoyens en sont l'essence même. This at a time when the newest thing is not new enough, when faster is not fast enough, when society's demands for change barely keep up with our own cycles of skepticism. At a time when Canada continues to struggle with the Phoenix pay system, when the British National Health Service was hit by one of the biggest cyber attacks in the world, when questions continue about Russian hacking in the US election, when the Internet of Things must find balance with security for private information, we are still debating what makes good policy, how best it should be done, and how best it can serve people. Despite the threats of safety and personal security, governments still need to engage with citizens, while at the same time protecting them. This is through digital transformation, the true digital transformation, because government is not a corporation. Government is not out for profit. So, for government, advancement and improvements take time. Technology is always advancing. Government is always there. But government does not change technology. Instead, governments monitor and regulate. Systems, just like governments, should be designed to evolve and grow and assist. Changes need to be positive and sustainable. Changing culture, changing how and why we do what we have always done is not an easy process. Doing so means people have to want to make change. They have to be invested in it in order to move things along. I hold one of the most traditional offices in this province, and yet my role had to change, to adapt, to make cultural shifts, to remain relevant in 2017. And I guess I'm still relevant because you keep inviting me back. But it doesn't mean we have lost all of the ceremony and traditions of the past. I still sign every bill into law. I still grant royal assent. I still bestow honors and give awards and medals. It is part of the job. This job is about people. A cultural shift can exist while holding on to some of the past. New Brunswick as a province is the perfect example. This was the location of the first established settlement by European explorers in 1604. We helped to build this country. We are small but mighty. We struggle, but we have always struggled. It is who we are. We are survivors. We're small but mighty. We are resource-based, forestry, fisheries, farming. But look at this group here today, focused on leadership, innovation, and how to connect them to people. I hope one of your clear goals is to try to make life easier for citizens and users. Figuring out how to make things accessible and desirable has not been easy for many governments. There are countless examples of citizens removing their leaders because they have not done enough, quickly enough, or because they have been around too long, and the ideas they once represented no longer satisfy. Parfois, la transparence souffre, car ce qui est rendu transparent est perçu comme facile, voire insignifiant à l'occasion. Nous devons toujours avoir un objectif spécifique avec une orientation claire dans un projet très précis. Making everything open and accessible for all users all the time seems too vast and without focus. Therefore, I hope you are looking for new and innovative solutions, keeping in mind tradition rather than one big transparent bucket. Opening everything is just like taking a drink from a fire hose. Another problem is the politics of governments. It always has been and always will be. Every government operates for the people, but with a political agenda. Who gets to celebrate success? Or who wears a failure? The cultural changes you discussed today must be able to live and survive if and when a government changes. N'oubliez pas que ce que vous faites ici est politique. Malgré le fait que vous soyez des experts en innovation, en transformation numérique, vous faites aussi partie d'un mouvement politique. Part of this cultural shift is to empower citizens to access and use data. Innovators like you need easier access. If we improve data skills across society, we all win. And that becomes part of the great New Brunswick story we are all writing. That is 2017. Internal processes improve, more New Brunswickers are empowered, and in turn, even more are motivated to take up the cause. We need to stop giving life to the negatives which influence how others see us. We need to inspire more positive experiences, more sharing, more consolidation. If we want citizens, businesses, and communities to take informed decisions using the wealth of data sources available, we need to make this data useful and exciting for them. This can mean many things, from creating a better experience of the tools people use to explore data, to publishing data in a way that people can better relate. People lead revolutions, not data. You are the people to do so. I am delighted to be back with you again, and I wish you successful discussions. Bonne chance. Merci beaucoup. Bonne délibération.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Honneur. Merci de votre message positif, toujours constructif. Et nous avons bien pris note de l'importance, évidemment, de changer les attitudes, de changer les croyances et ainsi pouvoir changer l'avenir. Et as you said, it's all about engaging with and for our citizens. And it's basically what we're here all together. And you put a lot of emphasis on the fact that we're all connected together, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. And now, just a few housekeeping items before we begin the program properly. So, nous aimerions aborder quelques questions d'ordre technique. Je vous demanderai donc de bien vouloir désactiver d'abord la sonnerie de vos téléphones cellulaires. Please, a gentle reminder to turn off your cell phone ringer. Please note that our washrooms located at each end of the floor and in the same positions on the floor below us. The quickest way is if you exit this room to turn right in the atrium, and go to the end of the atrium where you will find washrooms on your right. Vous trouverez donc les toilettes à chaque extrémité de l'étage et de l'étage en dessous également. Pour y arriver le plus rapidement possible, lorsque vous sortez de la salle, tournez à droite, puis allez jusqu'au bout de l'atrium où vous trouverez les toilettes à votre droite.
Most of our sessions today, including the keynotes and the plenaries, will take place here in this room, except for some of the concurrent sessions at 10:30 and 1 and 9:15 tomorrow morning. For those of you, you have the option to attend sessions in this room, in the Nashwaaksis room, which is down the stairs, turn left and straight down the first hallway. Good luck following my directions. I would probably tell you, check in your printed program, and that will really help you. Or the Marysville room, which is downstairs also, down the stairs, turn left towards the back of the building, and then turn right down the second hallway. So again, consult your printed program and follow the signs, or you can ask for help at the Govmaker registration desk downstairs or the Convention Center's own front desk next door to the registration. There will be someone at the registration desk until 10 a.m. each day, and the Convention Center's front desk is open all day. If you need help, two key people, Sean Ebolia or the program co-chair Lorna Brown. These are the ladies, and I don't know where they are, but are you here, ladies? There they are. They know everything. For the presenters, I would ask that you wait by the tech booth, which is over here 10 minutes before your session, so we can get you set up with your microphone. We have a very packed agenda, so during the presentation, we will be reminding about time.
And finally, for tweeps here, the conference hashtag, as you know, is #Govmaker. We hope you'll have an engaging conversation here in person and obviously online also. And now for the real meat of the conference. Je considère que les administrations publiques doivent faire preuve évidemment d'un plus grand degré de transparence afin de contrer le cynisme qui règne à leur endroit et susciter un plus grand engagement du public dans les processus décisionnels. La gouvernance ouverte est aujourd'hui une exigence démocratique incontournable. I believe that public administration must be as transparent as possible to counter the cynicism that they almost all have to deal with and to create a greater public engagement in the decision-making process. Open governance is today a necessary democratic requirement.
I couldn't agree more. At the government in New Brunswick, we are preparing for a digital transformation that will result in more open governance and citizen-centric services, which are key to open government. Govmaker 2017, with its 3 streams of leadership, innovation and people-powered, could not be timelier for us. We hope that you will be inspired by the great moments over the next 2 days. But more than that, let's just get ready to have a great dialogue, roll up your sleeves, and let's take these moments into a movement following this conference. So let's get started and do some gov-making. We are privileged to have with us as our opening keynote, Hilary Hartley. Hilary is the Chief Digital Officer for the Province of Ontario. As a Deputy Minister for Digital Government, she leads the Ontario Digital Service, a team of designers, developers, and product specialists tasked with making government digital services easier for the people of Ontario. Previously, Hilary was the Deputy Executive Director at 18F, the U.S. government's digital office, and former Presidential Innovation Fellow. She has extensive experience in technology, digital strategy, design thinking, and public engagement. As Ontario's Chief Digital Officer, Hilary will help accelerate transformation across government by setting new service standards for digital products, attracting and empowering digital talent, and aligning partners around delivering the best possible customer experience, which is exactly what we're aiming to do here in this province. After she speaks, if there's time, Hilary will be happy to take a few questions. If so, if you could go to the standing mics if we have any time. So it is with true pleasure that I would ask you to welcome Hilary Hartley.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Just sit this here somehow. Sorry for the noise. There we go. Excellent. Good morning. Bonjour. Je suis nouveau ici et mon français est mauvais. But I tried. I am actually trying to learn and go back to my freshman year of high school, and so I'm learning things like tu as un joli canard. It's lovely. But so we're here today to talk about digital transformation. It's already been mentioned a couple times, even just in the opening remarks. And I'll tell you, essentially, I'm going to start off by kind of just tearing both of those words down. I sort of hate both of those words, and I know that digital is even in my title, but I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean by that. So, we'll start with digital. And first and foremost, digital isn't a list of things to do or services to build. It's really more about how you think, how you behave, what you value, what drives decisions in your organization. Or to put it another way, this fine gentleman, Tom Loosemore, who probably a lot of folks in this room are maybe somewhat familiar with, he says that it is about applying the culture, practices, processes, and technologies of the internet era to respond to people's raised expectations. And that last bit there about the raised expectations is pretty much why we are here doing this work, is because we have, usually I pull out my phone, but I left it over there just so it didn't cause any frequency challenges. But, we have these things in our pockets. We're sitting in front of our laptops. People expect to be able to get things done quite easily, and government is not immune to those expectations. A digital organization is one that can operate effectively in this digital age, which means that in the internet era, I will say to you that all our organizations should be or are digital. And our leaders need that basic level of digital competence, curiosity, and confidence. because we are here to transform government services. And in order to do that, sometimes we have to transform entrenched or outdated practices. And the only lasting way to do that is by transforming the culture of service delivery around that. I'm not here, and I don't think anyone in this room is probably here just to sort of have the shiny new thing to do. I've been working with governments for about 20 years because I want people's lives to be better, for their interactions with government to be easier. And I think any one of my colleagues would tell you the same thing. But big transformation happens a little at a time. And I think that even the title of this conference, Leadership, Innovation, and what was the third one? People power. I mean, a framework for digital transformation. I could have titled my talk that. I mean, that is exactly, I think, the guiding light that we should all be following. Because transformation happens when one person steps up and says, I think we should do this a little bit differently. I think we can do this a little differently. That prompts someone else to step up, then another, and then practices and behaviors start to change. You give people a new way to see their problems, a new method of investigating them, and expectations start to change. And then you start to see the culture shift. I've been in Ontario about 7 months, and I've been on the job about 7 months, moved my family there in August, and I love it. I love Toronto, I love Ontario, I love being a Canadian. The Ontario Digital Service itself was officially established in this last budget in Ontario. It's a new team inside Cabinet Office of the provincial government. And our role at the ODS, this week, because we like acronyms in government, but the ODS is really a center of gravity, is kind of the term that I've latched onto, for digital expertise and support. This place where we can experiment, where we can introduce new skills, a new problem-solving approach to the public service, a new way to organize ourselves and tackle challenges. We're not your typical tech or web team. We have developers, we have designers, we have content designers, but we also have user researchers, service designers, agile coaches, policy advisors. We are trying to be a product team that may or may not build product. But the most important reason we are building that kind of team is so that we can build some products, but we can also just be in the trenches helping any one of our partners do that as well. And this really is our guiding light. This is our mission, is building simpler, faster, better government services. This is our mandate. And it's 10 points that the Secretary of Cabinet published in May after we were announced in the budget. And you can see there, number 1, redesign online services for people in business. Number 2, deliver a consistent, high-quality user experience. These are the things that are on our radar. These are the things that we are going to strive to do. Number 10, create inclusive digital services with a focus on accessibility and not leaving people behind. How can we help everyone have access to the work that we do? So you can read all of those, but really, I like to boil them down into these 4 sections. Starting with services. And I apologize, there's a little highlight behind there, so the sections are not going to make sense, but this is the services section. So I'm going to start with a really interesting project that my team had been working on even before I arrived, because the OSAP, Ontario Student Assistance Program, has essentially created an opportunity for 200,000, a little bit more than 200,000 students to go to college or university completely for free. We worked with OSAP, we worked with the Ministry of Advanced Education and Skills Development to understand what students needed. It used to be a very sort of bifurcated process between applying for this or applying for that and getting your grant and all this kind of stuff. And we did the user research to understand what could get them through the system faster, what was going to incentivize them to even consider applying. And then we went back to basics, got people around the table and changed the policy around what we actually knew they needed after we had delivered something. And so this year, 50,000 more people have applied. And that's about a 15% increase in applications over last year. And it's simply due to that little calculator right there, the part that says how much could you get. We shouldn't take all the credit, but I really do think that this little intervention where we said, what would help people know that this program exists and that they should use it? Well, you answer these 4 or 5 fairly easy questions. You click calculate, and then you get a big box that says to most people, to more than half of the people who click that box, you could go to college or university for free. And people did not know that. They had no idea that that existed, that that service was going to be available to them and inclusive of them. And so again, we sort of are this little product team that lives in a service design world that is trying to help the overall system become better. We really are, the goal there with student applications is to get more people, if the big service, sort of program design goal is to get more people to attend college and university. And then the service design around there is, okay, if we're going to do that, if that's the outcome, how are we going to do that? Well, more people have to apply. Okay, well, what is the intervention that we can build? What is the product that we can do to get people in there? So we also have a partnership with Service Ontario, where essentially we are partnering with them to sort of find those services that have been online for a while and should be winners. People should be using them. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a lot of people really interested in renewing their driver's license online or any number of services that do exist. But if we watch people use them, they're getting hung up somewhere. They're getting hung up on a question. They're not seeing the right, the button that tells them how to move forward. We haven't done the work to truly understand the thing that we built and the thing that we thought was really straightforward, if that actually works for the people who are coming to the site to get that done. And so we're doing a lot of really simple work with Service Ontario just to take a look at analytics, to do some user research, to do some usability testing, and to understand what service, like where we can make small tweaks and small improvements to a lot of different services. This is our partnership with the Ministry of Health. We essentially have partnered with them to create a more patient-centered view into the health system in Ontario. Ontario.ca/health is one of these, and it is essentially like a kind of jumping off point for people who don't understand OHIP, the health insurance plan, people who may be new to the country and have never gotten to experience this lovely system that allows you to simply live somewhere and go to the doctor for free. But so we've essentially designed a number of things kind of along that landscape that help people just understand the healthcare system in Ontario. And that partnership with the Ministry of Health has been super important because it has shown them a new way to essentially approach how to create this information. What needs to get surfaced? How do we decide what needs to get surfaced? Well, it's through actually watching people and listening to people and asking people and doing the work to understand what's not clear, not just what the folks in the minister's office think is important. And this is our approach. We start with user needs. They are baked in from the beginning. And we go through this cycle. It is sort of it's an agile cycle. It's not a capital A agile cycle, but we are agile. We are iterative. And at each stop along the way, we are assessing to see whether or not we are continuing to meet those user needs. The biggest thing that I like to talk about with this slide, alpha is where you have a small prototype. You're testing with people. Beta is when you take that prototype and you actually make it real, and maybe you call that a pilot, where real people are using it. You're getting real data. You're getting real, you're trying to create a real transaction, but maybe it's small and limited. Live is somewhat self-explanatory, but discovery is the most important piece of this puzzle, and I think is the ODS's true value proposition in a system that has teams that are doing good work all across the province. But again, it's bringing that new lens and that new approach to a system where it is hard to be agile sometimes, and it is hard to take that moment to actually go and dive in and understand what the users actually need. I'll tell you a very quick story about a project that we worked on at 18F in the US, where one of our partners inside the same agency came to us and said, I work with contracting officers. We're starting up essentially a new platform for getting kind of vendors into the system. And you know, I've got a tool that I need to get built to enable this new system to take off. And it'll be for my contracting officers. And he knew exactly what he needed. He'd been in this world for a long time. He'd been in this role for a long time. He'd been doing this work. He was a great business and program owner. And we said, okay, that sounds really interesting. We are very interested. We were still just a really small team and excited to have anyone come to us and kind of want to give us some work to do. But we said to Larry, we said, you know, we're going to go and we're going to talk to contracting officers. We'll go discuss this with about, you know, a dozen people or so, and just understand a little bit more about the nature of the problem. So we went and we talked to a dozen contracting officers, and we asked them about their day-to-day work. We asked them about their flow. We asked them how they get their work done, what they thought their job was, and how they were going to interact with this new system. And it may not surprise you to know where this story is going, which is that when we described what Larry wanted, the program owner, the business owner of this system, when we described what he wanted and what he wanted us to build, every single one of them said, I kind of understand why. He thinks that's what needs to get built, but I wouldn't use it. Every single one of them. And we gathered up all the data, because you have to show, not tell people. And we went back and we said, hey, listen, Larry, if you really want this system to be built, we'll help you. We'll help you write an RFP. You can get a vendor to come in and do it. But we're not going to build it because we really only want to build things that people are going to use. And no one said they were going to use this. But they will use this. What they really wanted was essentially kind of a market comparison tool. They needed something very different from what Larry thought, even though he thought he was streamlining the process, but their process was pretty good, and they needed this tool. And we said, here's what they're really excited about, and if you want us to build that, we'll build that. And he was an excellent partner, and he said, okay, let's do that. But that simple decision is very, very hard to do in government sometimes, where you've already gone to Treasury Board and you've already said, I'm going to build this, and I've got this much money, and I've got this much time. And that is not an easy thing to do. And so you have to understand the power of discovery, and you have to understand that sometimes what you think needs to be built is not what users are actually going to do if you were going to actually put user needs at the heart of your work. Second section is just talking about platforms. Our fundamental platform is our flagship website in Ontario. It's ontario.ca. This is the website where we are essentially we're about halfway through moving ministries over to ontario.ca from a content perspective. And again, it's not lift and shift, but it is doing a little bit of work to understand what do people want and need and appreciate from this content? What is the top task? What is the top information that they are using? And how can we bring that over in a plain language, user-centered way? So Ontario.ca is the sort of platform website. We're also trying to build it like a platform so that in the near future, other agencies will be able to build on it just like we do. The second platform that I'd like to talk about is not a software platform, but this is our framework for digital transformation. This is our digital service standard. Essentially, these are 14 points along the path to good, if you will. We believe that if you follow these 14 points, at the end of the day, you complete an assessment either with us or you just sort of follow the templates and the guides and the work that we are putting together around this. We think you're probably going to be on a pretty good path. It starts at the top there with establish the right team. And that, again, that means that it's not just that you need a policy person and the business owner and maybe someone from the digital team in the room, but you should have the entire team at the table from the beginning so that you understand what's possible, what's not, what is really important, what's not, so that you can bring those user needs back to the table time and time again. You make your way around there and you see things like make it accessible. Well, of course, I mean, that is the law. We're going to make it accessible. But what does that mean beyond just a checkbox of accessibility? What does inclusion mean? What does it look like to design with accessibility and inclusion in mind? Make your way around a little bit more and, measuring performance. And number 14, last but not least, test with the minister. Test with someone who is at the top of the food chain, if you will, so that they understand that the thing that you are delivering is what our users have said, so that they see it, so that they understand it. So this digital service standard is currently in beta. It's on GitHub at the moment, github.com/Ontario Digital. You can go check it out. We would love feedback. More than anything, we would love for this to not be Ontario's digital service standard, but we would love for it to be the digital service standard for all provinces or any provinces. We are willing to change this to get there because we feel like if we can have this sort of this language, this template in policy documents, in RFPs, et cetera, that we're holding ourselves accountable to this, that you would be holding yourselves accountable to this, that vendors would be holding themselves accountable to this type of assessment. Third is, oops, wrong button. Third is procurement. And we're going to be doing several experiments kind of around procurement. But it's really first and foremost just about building stronger partnerships. The screenshots on this slide are from 2 experiments that we ran in at 18F. One around kind of a micro purchase procurement auction type thing. It was essentially a reverse auction where we said, we know we've got a lot of discrete tasks that we need to get done, and couldn't we buy open source code on our purchase cards? Sort of rooting around the procurement processes a little bit. So we did. We built a reverse auction system that essentially we write a really discrete task order, essentially, and then let people bid on it. It starts at $3,500, the most that we could put on that particular purchase card, and have them bid down. The very first task we put up for bid went all the way down to $1. And he told us, he said, it's open source. I would have done it for free. I just want to contribute. I want to contribute to your work. I want to work with you. The end of that story is he actually did come to work with us, which was great. But the second piece there is something that we call the Agile BPA, the Blanket Purchase Agreement, which is similar to a vendor of record system. But this is a group of nearly 20 companies that have essentially vied to get into this pool that have shown us, not told us, but shown us that they work like us. That they iterate, that they do user research, that they understand user needs, and that they are agile, and that they iterate. How did we do that? Well, the innovation there is not really that this pool exists, but that we didn't do it based on written RFPs. We did it based on showing us, not telling us. And we had everybody essentially compete over a 2-week time period. The code was all open source on their platform of choice. And we said, here's the problem, here's the data, build something that works, and show us how you did it. It may not surprise you to know that a couple of very large government vendors that have many, many contracts with the U.S. federal government anyway, couldn't deliver that. They just couldn't simply deliver an app based on an API using the data. And one even wrote to us and asked for the data on a DVD. Yep. So, again, don't believe them if they tell you they can do it. Have them show you. That is sort of the moral of that story. But we're going to be doing a lot of different experiments around procurement and just kind of the notion of how do we widen the aperture of folks that can and want to do business with the Ontario government. The last piece there around talent and training. I started, at the beginning, sort of talking about the necessity of people for this work. And so you hire the best people, they come with really stellar practices. And those 2 pieces are fundamental to this equation. So we are nurturing talent. We're trying to figure out how to recruit them, how to retain them, or retrain them, in fact, because it is selfish. We want to grow our team. But we also want there to be teams that proliferate throughout the public service. And we're going to be working really hard to do that. In fact, we've got our first pilot of that right now, where similar to GDS in the UK or USDS in the United States, we're helping to hire a team that will live in another ministry and be sort of attached to us and work with us. We're really excited about that. Because, again, I started with the notion that leaders, that people at these tables making decisions need to have the curiosity and the confidence around digital. And so we're really trying to essentially help widen the talent pool across Ontario. fundamental piece of this is working out loud. And by that, I just mean the fundamental notion of openness. And openness is sort of the underlying thread to all of this work. I actually was trying to write about this a little bit and thinking about what does openness really mean. Not open government necessarily. There's been a lot written about open government and open data, but openness in the government. And it infuses everything. As soon as I got started, it was just, you know, sort of a waterfall, if you'll excuse that, of understanding that simple thing is at the heart of this work. Is if we are working in the open, if we are documenting everything, if we are blogging about everything, not just our wins and not just our those moments where we're super proud about what we did, but the struggles that we're having along the way. If we're talking about what we're struggling on, what we're struggling with, what we're working on, if we're in the middle of something, not just the launch, that's really what is transformative, and not just for our team, but the wider ecosystem as well. I mean, I would probably say that I would not be standing here, and there may not be some people in this room if the Government Digital Service in the UK had not made that very formative decision to just write their history in real time, to blog everything, to document everything, to make open to the world the work that they were doing, because it has supercharged all the other teams that have come second. And so I think that's a really important challenge for us. Speaking of something like that, we have these method cards, and we essentially forked this, which is a sort of a geeky term of saying we're going to take what you made, it's open source, and we're going to change it for our purposes. My team in the US, 18F, created a deck of method cards that essentially help us and our partners understand the different research methods that we use to understand user needs. And so our team in Ontario took that concept and are working with some of those same concepts, some of the same cards, tweaking them a little bit for the Canadian or the Ontarian experience. And then we added one as well. That first one, the My Digital Abilities card, is new because it really is, it is fundamental to this work. I mentioned we're focused on inclusion and thinking about that. So as a new addition, and we're kind of building out our own deck of method cards. But it's, you know, we borrowed it and we're enhancing it and changing it. I mentioned that it's on GitHub. We're really working with policy owners across Ontario to understand where this is working and where this is not, to work with the other digital teams, to understand what pieces of this make sense in our context and what doesn't. It's even allowing us to really kind of share practices around what does GitHub mean? How do I use it? What is it for? Because it's not really just for code. We used it for workflows and everything at my last job. We're trying to get people to share resources and kind of give them faster, practical guidance. So this question of how might we change and affect and transform the public service in Ontario is important, because our mission is absolutely to make government simpler, faster, and better. But our not-so-secret mission, in fact, what I believe we've been asked to do, is to figure out how our team of 60, that really beautiful, diverse team I showed you at the beginning, how that team of 60 can rub off on the 60-some-odd thousand across the Ontario Public Service. The typical change management approach consists of, a memo from the Secretary of Cabinet or from a deputy minister, a robust communications and issues management plan, and some kind of gold standard pilot or example, and definitely a beautiful deck that shows off all of these things. But I believe that we have to sort of move beyond that. Again, I've said it a couple times: show, don't tell, and work really hard to make the good path the easy path. We sit inside Cabinet Office, and we're in government to essentially be a team that you can point to and say, look, the sky is not falling over there. They're trying these new things. They are being agile. They have figured out some little things. And by having a team in government that can do new things first, cannot get in trouble for it, let alone actually prove that things work to your advantage, the rest of government can point and say, look, they're doing it. We're there to reduce that first mover's risk, to catalyze and enable people that already have amazing ideas and just need a team to help them deliver. And which is why, sort of talking about we've got to work against that typical approach. I fundamentally believe that the strategy is delivery. So what that means to us is that it's important to just get started. You have to build something small that you can put in front of real users, learn from it, and do it again. The strategy is not bound in action plans and documents and strategy documents, but it is in doing something, proving that it works, and then figuring out how to scale it. So the first piece of that transformation was people. We've got awesome people across our team. We've got folks in Waterloo. We've got some folks in London. We're working together to understand how we can move things forward, but we cannot do it alone. That's really only part of the story. Our 60-person team is, again, it's a catalyst. It is a center of gravity. But there are people who showed up long before us and who will be there far in the future. And those civil servants, our partners, are passionate, dedicated, talented, tenacious, and culture change in government begins and ends with them. So the second part of the equation, practices. Building these startups inside the provincial bureaucracy really starts by integrating with the bureaucracy. We have to work to approach everything in that same agile, open, user-centered way that we use when we're thinking about products. So if you look at this list, the first few might sound familiar if you've read anything about Agile or Lean Startup. You need a stakeholder, a user for which you can create a minimally viable product or solution, basically the smallest thing you could build to start learning something from. You have to get real people using it. You have to learn and iterate. But it's these last two that are somewhat unique to being agile inside a very large organization. We've learned, I think, two things that have helped us get traction fast. And that's that it's okay to kind of hack your way around the rules, but you have to stay aligned with them. And number two, as soon as something works, formalize it and memorialize it for reuse. You'll notice that there's a couple asterisks there next to stay aligned with the rules of bureaucracy, and that is because we cannot, oh no, it's because it's highlighted there. There's a big but there. It says but. Rules are not, are not standard operating procedures. Standard operating procedures are not laws. We cannot be afraid to re-examine the rules. We might find some, that rules are not really rules, that sometimes they're just outmoded traditions, which kind of brings me back around to that last piece of the equation, which is culture change. We're shipping software every day. We are building things, putting them into people's pockets and laptops and helping folks interact with government. But at the end of the day, I believe our biggest deliverable is shipping culture. Because culture change happens when we build trust and confidence in methodologies that work. When we reduce anxiety about the new or the unknown, and we serve up example after example, all of them signaling, look, this is safe. You're not going to get in trouble doing this way. In fact, it's usually better, faster, less risky. Cultural change happens because we deliver together, hand in hand and aligned, not by command and control or a memo dictating a new way to work. You probably can't read this, but it's online at medium.com/Ontario Digital. It's one of our most recent blog posts. But these are our, this is our leadership. These are our leadership values. Up there at the top left, obsess about the user. I think I've hopefully driven that point home. Talking about working out loud, being agile and iterative. You have to embrace the chaos. You have to understand that this work is unpredictable. That user needs shift. And so how do we use the tools and the work before us to be nimble and to understand, to use data to do that as well. Bottom left there, challenge everything. Goes back to that sort of question everything. Don't assume that a rule is a rule unless you've been sort of shown what the rule is, especially if you're trying to get a new thing done. And they're down there at the bottom right, be prepared to fail. Again, I said that sort of openness was the linchpin of all of this. And if we have to be talking about what's working, what's not working, our successes and our failures. Because that's the only way that I am going to learn from you all, is if you tell me when you failed and what you learned from it. And so these are the sort of the 5 pillars of practice that we use, and that I think modern kind of development teams use. The first is to be the change. Again, we're not going to be a team that swoops and poops, as I like to call it. We're not a seagull team. We're not going to come in, fix something, and leave. We intend to lead by example, by instruction, with hands-on assistance, so that you understand why we're doing things a certain way, and probably, hopefully, want to do it that way again. I believe that user-centered design will fundamentally change the experience you have with your government. We are trying to build only what people need, nothing more. And again, the kicker there is user needs, not stakeholder or government needs. So we need to give Larry another high five. Using metrics and analytics to augment that user research, using data. And whenever possible, I think in government it's important to think API first, if you will. Think about laying that foundation so that your teams can build on it, but so that other teams can build on it and deliver to their constituents and their user needs as well. Agile and lean methodologies drive that work. We believe in delivering early and often. We're going to build something small, learn by validating with real people, and rinse and repeat. Those quick feedback loops hopefully mean big failures don't happen, because we fail roughly every 2 weeks, hopefully a little bit. And last but not least, trying to be open by default, both what we make and how we work. So working in the open, coding in the open, designing in the open. Yes, that is about open source, but it's also just that ethos of how do we do this in a way that can bring people along with us so that we can learn from them and they can learn from us. For real transformation to occur, it's really not enough for us to simply work this way and hope that every stakeholder, every program manager that we work with is somehow transformed. We've got to reach farther. And I think that ultimately we are trying to create better clients. We want to create a team that is working in a new way, whether it's working with us in the future or working with a vendor. Because when you take a program manager through a design studio for the first time, they pick up a pencil and sketch along with the designers or the engineers on the team. When a product owner shows up for sprint planning meetings or regular retrospectives, and they get to experience that agile workflow for the first time. Or when you deliver something every 2 weeks, regularly involving the end user and the stakeholders helping shape the product. Those are the moments where you are resetting expectations. You're raising the bar, and we're showing our agency partners that there's a different way to get results. And that's the long tail of this transformation, because the whole ecosystem around building and buying software shifts. So yes, we are delivering digital services, but the goal is transformation. And it's not just of the services and the practices, but it is of that culture that helps get it done, because we are here to transform lives. Thank you very much for having me here today, and eager to keep learning from all of you. Thanks.
There's time. Go. Yes, please go ahead. Hillary will take questions. I have the mic. We can throw it around. Thank you, Richard, as always.
This is actually live. Wow.
I love those, by the way. I gotta get one.
I've never seen those, by the way. I'm based in Ontario, so I'm familiar with your team. More specifically, I love how you talk about working out loud. You guys have a blog. Your team has a blog that is not buried deep somewhere in Ontario.ca. It sits on Medium. And it's not just you that writes. It's the entire team, rank and file and all.
And our partners.
And your partners. Mm-hmm. I'd like for you to speak more about the process, about how your team writes those blogs, how it's released, how it's published. Do you go through your communications team with TBS or the cabinet? Do you get blowback from the elected officials that say perhaps the public servant's role is not to talk to the public, it's our job to talk to the public? Yeah. I'd like for you to explain a little bit more about that.
Sure. I will, did everybody hear the question? I think the mic was on. Okay, great. I'll start by just using the newbie caveat a little bit, because I don't know the ins and outs of the process with the Ontario team. What I do know, though, is a little bit of the history, which was as the team was starting out, and it was, you know, sort of this startup, this sort of scrappy team that was trying to push some buttons and get things done in a new way. They were very lucky, even before I got here, to have essentially some champions and some folks that trusted them. They were very lucky to have some folks that had come from Cabinet Office Communications. And so they were able to essentially say at first, okay, we're gonna blog, we're gonna talk about it. The first couple of posts went through, you know, Cabinet Office Communications Director, you know, in addition to our team. But they essentially said, you know, very early on, you know what you're doing, we trust you, and you know, do what you're going to do. But hold yourselves to this sort of same standard and same, you know, hold yourselves accountable. And so that's where the team is at today. The team, essentially, our posts are vetted internally and by our, it's not her title, but our communications director, our head of engagement, our sort of the head of that piece of work for our team. She vets every post. I see ones that feel like maybe they want the deputy's attention too, just so that if there is blowback, I have seen it. Again, sort of the whole thing, test with the minister. If there's blowback, the person, you know, ultimately that needs to take responsibility for it needs to have experienced it. So it's really, it sounds hokey to say it, but it really is kind of centered around trust, and we're lucky. And we can't blow it. In the U.S., at 18F, I had the privilege of kind of building that practice and building the outreach team and really driving our communications forward. And there was a little bit more process around it, but at the end of the day, it was built on trust. We were working with so we were inside the General Services Administration, the GSA, and so our team had a liaison to the GSA comms team and comms director. And we just worked hand in hand so that she was in there with us. It's sort of that working hand in hand. It's don't just pass it off and hope that you're going to get a red light or a green light, you know, but have them in the document with you. Have them in, you know, sort of embedded in your team a little bit so that they understand why you're wanting to talk about technical debt or why you're wanting to do a blog post on effective meetings, because, you know, that can be seen as fluff unless they understand that it's core to sort of how we're getting work done and how we're communicating to our partners what effectiveness really means to us. So at 18F, we actually managed the blog in GitHub, so people would put, you know, new ideas and issues in, and we would sort of use that as our workflow. With Ontario Digital, we use Jira, which is the system that they use for most things. But we treat it like a product, where we're sort of planning out, you know, just like we would with an editorial calendar, but with a kind of product mentality, which is interesting. I hope that answers a little bit.
Good morning, Hillary. That was a really interesting and inspiring presentation.
Thank you.
As I'm hearing it, though, I'm wondering, as we're transforming our systems in the digital age, how might we also meet the needs of citizens that are not part of the digital world or might not be able to engage with the digital world for different reasons?
Sure, that's a great question. And then that's why I spoke a couple times about inclusion and how it not being just about accessibility and sort of a checkbox to clear that gate, but about true inclusion, about designing for the edges is something that we're talking about a lot, which is if you think about the edges, if you think about that 5, 10, 15% of users that are the edge case. I mean, oftentimes we deliver for the middle. But if we change that, we flip that a little bit, and when we design and deliver for those edge cases, then you're going to catch everybody in between. And so it's a little bit of a mental model shift just around that. And we are not always excellent at that, but that is something that we're trying to keep top of mind. How do we do that better? And I think that just in general, you know, one thing that I've been thinking about a lot, especially because and I don't know if New Brunswick has something similar, but I know that other provinces do, but with the existence of Service Ontario, where there is, there are physical locations all across the province where people can go. One thing I've been talking about a lot is if we do our jobs well and we create these services that are just very easy to use, to understand, to get done on your phone, that lifts the whole ecosystem up around it. Because then if folks do walk into a physical location and they need help, the people behind the desk are then also using that very simple, easy to use and understand system to help walk them through step by step. So, I'm thinking and I'm hoping, again, it's a hypothesis, but I'm thinking and hoping that raising the, sort of raising the bar around digital actually has a trickle-down effect to those in-person places as well. But I think even bigger than that, just focusing on accessibility, focusing on mobility, so that all of our stuff does work on a mobile device. We're seeing huge trend lines on mobile. We built a service that is still kind of in stealth mode, if you will, but it's a page on within the Ontario.ca/health system of content, where essentially there is a page online called the formulary, which is where doctors and pharmacists and people who know what they're talking about go to search for medicines to find out if they are covered by the Ontario drug benefit. Will they be free to the people who are who have coverage by the drug benefit program? And so people land there all the time from Google because they're trying to find out, is my medicine covered? And our team noticed this. And they said, this page is scary to people. They land there and it looks like it's from a different age. And then maybe if they figure out how to do a successful search, they land on a page that they really don't understand. Again, it's for the pharmacists and for the doctors. So the bounce rate is incredibly high. People don't spend any time on it. But lots and lots and lots of people are landing there. And we said, okay, let's see if we can scrape this data and just build a really friendly tool. And so the team did that. There's a great story there because they demoed it for the deputy, and the deputy said, I don't know how you're going to do this. This is really complicated stuff. And he just started throwing these really edge case drugs at it, and it all worked. And he just sort of sat there with his jaw, and he said, okay, how can I support you? How do we get this out there? But the reason I tell that story is because it's available on mobile. And it's not, as I said, it's just sort of in stealth mode. There hasn't been a big announcement about it, but I believe they have put it in the navigation in a couple places. And just in the first week it was live, it was the 20th most accessed page on Ontario.ca, with 63% of people hitting it from their phones. And so you can imagine somebody is standing in line at Shoppers, or maybe they're at Tim's using the Wi-Fi and trying to find out if their medication is covered. And so paying attention to things like that helps with accessibility and inclusion as well. Because I do think there's some research that one of the ministries was sharing us recently that yes, it is true that there is a wide swath of people that don't have the ability to pay for data plans, but they do have phones. They do have phones. They almost have to have a phone to just sort of exist in society right now. So they have a basic phone. They have a basic plan. And like I said, they can go to Tim's. They can go to Starbucks. They can go to these places where free Wi-Fi exists and interact with our services. So we're trying to figure out all these different ways where we can close that gap. And if you're in Ontario on February 8th and 9th, I don't know if you'll be in Toronto, but we're hosting, along with the Public Policy Forum, a summit on digital inclusion. So the Ontario Digital Inclusion Summit is happening February 8th and 9th to bring people from all sectors, from industry, from academia, from government, together to wrestle with this question for a couple of days. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Thanks, Hilary, for sharing the exciting things that's going on in Ontario. I really liked your presentation. It was informative, inspiring. Like the openness, open by default. This is something I do all the time at council meeting. Just every time they come to do a presentation, they just say, well, if we should do this differently, what should we do? And it's just inspiring and engaging. So thank you very much also for coming to New Brunswick and to jump in French also. It's important because it's a clear signal that you value that. So I appreciated that also. So on behalf of everybody, please accept this token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a picture here. You take pictures.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone.
Alors, je vous invite à poursuivre évidemment la conversation durant la pause d'une demi-heure, donc de 30 minutes qui va commencer à ce moment. Refreshments are courtesy of our diamond sponsor, which is the Government of New Brunswick, and it will be served just outside the room in the foyer. Please, pendant que vous prendrez donc une collation, je vous invite à aller regarder donc les affiches du défi de visualisation des données ouvertes qui seront en montre dans le foyer aujourd'hui et demain, en avant de l'édifice, comme vous le savez, en direction des ascenseurs. Votez pour votre affiche favorite. And while you have a snack, I invite you to take a look, obviously, to the posters on the Open Data Visualization Challenge. That was a tough one. Which will also be on display today and tomorrow in the foyer, towards the front of the building, near the elevator. So vote for your favorite.
After the break, we have our first two concurrent sessions. In this room, an interactive panel using technology to build a better society, addressing social challenges through digital collaboration and citizen engagement. And in the Marysville room, which is down the stairs, turn left towards the back, a panel on prioritizing data and information for release. Please note there's been a slight change from your printed program. This panel will be moderated by Moses Iziumo. Please consult your programs for more information and follow the signs.
Alors, pour ceux qui craignent de rater quelque chose, n'oubliez pas que les séances sont enregistrées en vidéo. Les enregistrements seront disponibles dans les semaines qui suivent la conférence et des personnes prendront aussi le soin de prendre des notes durant les séances de groupe qui ne sont pas enregistrées. Alors, ces notes seront une fois traduites, affichées sur le site web de Govmaker dans les semaines qui suivront la conférence. Alors, profitez bien du café et des collations. Nous vous retrouvons ici ou dans une autre salle à 10h30. See you 10:30 sharp. Thank you very much.